Welcome, Lightworkers. Welcome to the Virtuallight Broadcast. This one's for November. Looking forward to this. Here we go. Got a lot of things going on planet Earth here today, and let me start off by simply saying that the world is upside down. We're seeing all this incredible tension, this frustration, this hate, inhumanity to man. It's very difficult to even get a grasp on it. When this first started happening, we wanted to pull together a global light so we could all come together and work on it. And the group said to hold off. They wanted to hold off a little bit because things still had possibilities of working in a different direction. Now it looks like we have an opportunity to really make a difference by coming together. So the group asked me to pull together a global light for tomorrow at exactly the same time, same place. So at 11 o'clock right here, you'll see another window right above this one if you're looking at it on our website. If you're watching it on YouTube, it'll be here as well in the same place. But we'll be here tomorrow at 11 o'clock. It'll be brief, probably less than a half an hour, because we just need to focus our energy and it's going to be very important that we not take sides in this. And that is very difficult because we all have our biases and we all have our sides of things that are going on. Yes, are things going on that are improper? Of course they are. Look around you. Absolutely. Now, the question next comes, well, who's at fault? And now you're getting into some unbelievable issues, and it's probably good that this is coming up, but I will tell you what the group tells me is that the collective consciousness is going to make a huge difference here. In other words, it's not going to be able to start World War III if the collective consciousness stands up and is against it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to hold our peace. We're going to hold our energy. We're going to foresee peace in this planet. And we're going to work with those images, not who's at fault, not what's happening, not what should we do, but we're going to plant some seeds of peace. And we're going to do that tomorrow at 11 o'clock right here. Come join us. And by holding hands, it's just a very magical thing. Now, what if you can't make it at 11 o'clock? What if you can't make it tomorrow? No problem. Time is an illusion. And interestingly enough, the groups told me before, they might talk about this tomorrow, I don't know, but they told me before that what happens is when we hold hands and we do something collective like this, what takes place is we engage them. So our energy goes up through them and reaches a much wider audience that way. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We would be working with the group the spiritual group, to basically open up and bring through, and there'll be a channel, of course, from the group on that. I don't know who's coming in, but we'll leave that up to there. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a short thing. We're going to start changing a couple things going into this new year. We have just opened up Lightmaster 2400. I talked about it last month, but it's open now, and it's open at any time. So basically, you don't need to join up at a specific time to get all the benefits and to get all the things that we're going forward. You're going to get quite a bit. And for those of you who are interested in the doctoral program that we've just started, the people that were in Lightmaster last year and the year before that are actually having opportunities to almost have some of these things count double. So take a look at this, because what happened was I did a lot of seminars, and of course we bring in new material all the time in Lightmaster. That's where it comes in. It comes in very spontaneously sometimes. I don't even know it's coming sometimes, and they start using new words or they start explaining a new concept. And then later it works its way into the Virtuallight Broadcast or some of the outside seminars or some of the other things we do. So Lightmaster is always very spontaneous because of that and because of what's taking place with that. But we have opportunities now to really engage this work and focus it. And that's what this is about. And I'm very thrilled to tell you that we are going to be doing Dissolving Fear is a powerful seminar. I hope you enjoy that. We just started that one. So anyway, we have the 2 days a week, and we have the spiritual psychology, what's going on. We have a lot of material going on. Check out the website. It's right there on the front page. You can see what's there. And of course, we're going to be in Breda, Netherlands, coming up very quick. 2 or 3 weeks, I think it is. So yeah. So anyway, we'll be then there doing the CLPP, the Cognitive Life Path Programming Seminar. I am so thrilled to come there this time because it's such a family to me. Barb and I have been to the Netherlands and to Belgium so many times when we were doing this material. It was almost as if it just seemed to fit into their culture. And it did others as well. We had great success in many countries throughout the world, but something special about Holland and Belgium. We almost bought a house there. So, I mean, you know, it was that kind of connection. And now it's even possible that I may be moving to Belgium. We'll see. But it's looking that way more and more all the time. So anyway, welcome today. Wanted to kind of bring you up on the details. The doctoral program is in full swing. We're trying to take care of anybody who has past things that they want to count for it. What is taking place in Lightmaster this coming year is kind of interesting. And I started to say this a minute ago. Let me finish the thought. What happens in Lightmaster when these new material comes in is sometimes there'll be a really good presentation in Lightmaster of this new material. And there's sometimes I'll want to turn that presentation into one of the things that we're offering to be credentialed for the doctoral degree. Well, those of you who are in Lightmaster last year and this year are getting credit for all the Lightmaster, period. You're getting credit for a year of Lightmaster. So that's a lot more than any individual class. But we also give credit for other individual classes. Since I took them from Lightmaster, you can actually get double credit. And that is going on through last year and all of this coming year. You will be able to do that because I'll be taking some of these segments, kind of building the things the group really wants us to see in the doctoral program, so that we have things in the store that are prepared and so forth. You know, one of them is a bodysuit. I'm still working on that one. But one of them is a bodysuit. I'm doing spiritual psychology right now. We'll be doing, we've got Crossing the Veil in there. Those are the two big ones for our programs and the things that we're doing. But we're also going to be bringing in new modalities and things that will also be here so that people have options. And that's the idea of this. So anyway, wanted to welcome you. I had, you know what? I had one of these certificates sitting here to show you, and I got up and left it. There are two certificates that we use in this doctoral program. You can get a certificate. You can basically, once you qualify, you can get a beautiful little diploma. These things are really nice, I got to tell you. And it basically talks about the what you've done and how you qualified and so forth. And it's signed by the entire board of directors of ASPAVO. That is the one for the Doctor of Metaphysics degree, which is the easier one. They're almost the same, but the Doctor of Metaphysical Healing, for those of you who are specifically in the healing areas and want that hanging on your wall, there's another one just for metaphysical healing. So the two of them are slightly different, but they're absolutely gorgeous, and I'd love to send you one. So anyway, we'll take a look at that down the road. And this whole thing was not meant to bring new people into our work. This is meant to honor the people that have been in our work, especially for many years. I've already given out several of them that have been with us in Lightmaster for 13 and 14 years. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to play that incredible role and allowing me to kind of honor you a little bit and then hopefully empower many of you with a little title that we can bestow upon you. Okay? Good. All right. Now, where are we going today? Okay, today I'm going to do one thing because I'm going to start shifting things around. We're going to start tightening up the Virtuallight Broadcast a little bit, bringing things into a little bit quicker presentation so that you're not here for 3 hours. We see the technologies and what's happening and the systems. And we know many of you watch it for a short period of time, come back later, watch a little bit of it, skip around, see that that's perfectly fine. But we're also going to tighten it up, and I'm not going to talk as much in the beginning. So we're also going to bring it down to one channel. It'll be lengthier because you'll probably hear from two different entities, just like you have been. But we're just going to bring it down to one channel at the end. It makes it a little easier for me to produce and for me to stay on focus and everything with that. What happens with me is I have a channel, the group is planting all these seeds, and then they start planting the seeds for the next channel. But then I've got all these people talking over here that are coming in with their own ideas, and it's real easy to get confused and not focus. So I'm going to come down to one channel. At the end, we will close with the channel, probably about 20 minutes, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're doing here today. So thank you all for being with us here. It's been an incredible journey. We're just about ready here in Las Vegas to step into fall. Today is one of our last 90-degree days. See, people talk about, we're in Las Vegas, we're in the desert. People talk all the time about the horrible heat we have. Yes, we do have some really nasty heat sometimes, but we're prepared for it. And then on both sides of that heat, we usually have 1.5 to 2 months of perfect weather in both sides of it. We're just now closing that out. Today is 93 degrees here in Las Vegas. And for us, some people 90 degrees is very uncomfortable. For us, that's really nice. That is short sleeve weather. That's perfect. Next week, it's going to go down to the low 80s. So we're going to lose about 10 degrees. We're entering into fall and winter next week. So it's good to kind of have these connections here. So, and of course, different parts of the world do it at different times and different energies. So anyway, thanks for being here. I'm going to bring in one of ours right away and share with you. I did tell you about the global light that is tomorrow at 11 a.m. right here in the same location that you are right now. Okay, let's start out from hearing from Meg.
Hi everyone, so nice to be with you again this month. Let's dive right in. So I had a different piece planned for this month, but I decided I'm not going to run with that. I'm going to run with what's happening currently in the world, because right now people are hurting and I would rather just bring resources to that. So let's dive in. A lot of people are reaching out to me now and talking to me about how they're feeling with the world. They're scared, or they're sad, or they're angry, or they're worried about what's coming next. Will things escalate? How do we deal with this? How do I cope? How do I live in this duality? How do I go to school? How do I send my kids to school? How do I go to work? How do I field these conversations that are uncomfortable? How do I just take a mental health break and not engage in conversations about it and give myself permission? And I want you to hear that right now. You, at any moment in time, can give yourself permission to exit a conversation. You have the absolute right to just step back. What we don't tend to recognize in the moment, because everything happens so fast and our brains are so smart and they're moving and processing data so quickly, is that it stops becoming about the outside condition and it becomes about the decisions we're making in those moments about us. That's when it becomes personal. And we accept or pick up at that moment old trauma that's being reactivated. We pick up that old fear of I'm not safe, or I'm not okay, or people don't like me, or the world is going crazy right in front of my eyes. We stay circling, spiraling in that, not knowing how to get out of that. And then we just draw to us more and more and more like energy conversations. So more people who want to talk about it. And before you know it, we're ruminating on it. We're chewing on it. We're in it. We're activated. And it's okay in those moments to not try to find full resolution for the world. Just you. You can find resolution in those moments just for you. That was something that my hypnotherapy practice has absolutely changed my life in how I navigate myself and my own well-being. When I do this, I mean in alignment, right? I just, all of a sudden I can hold my own center, my center of gravity, my energetic point of gravity on this planet. And so I can learn and practice to be able to be effective in a time of need, right? If we are not actually living in the middle of war zones, but we are affected by them, are we effective picking up our old trauma or beliefs when it becomes personal in that moment to us? How can we be helpful? And I don't mean this to be disrespectful in any way whatsoever. This is just a conversation I'm bringing to try to bring resources so that you can choose. You can slow down and you can choose right now, is this conversation good for me or not good for me? And if it's not good for me right now, I can step back. I can take regular mental health breaks. I can breathe. I can regulate my nervous system and breathe. Science has shown that when we close our eyes and take these deep breaths, we shift from sympathetic stress response into parasympathetic drive. Rest and digest resources. When we close our eyes, it fires off the signal in the nerves that as we're closing the visual cortex, it signals the brain that we're preparing for sleep. And so we start to drop down in brain waves from beta into alpha. Just 3 deep, slow exhalations and closing your eyes can shift your brain state. And then we have the ability to see in our body what we're holding on to in that moment, what fear, what tension, what worry, what anger, what feeling we're holding on to. And when we can access that, we can bring the resource to ourselves. I'm safe. I'm okay. I can help through this if I can hold my center, get back to my center. I can tell myself everything's okay. Right now in this moment, I don't have to know the future. I don't have to know every outcome. I can trust right now in my soul's plan for me. I can change my state just right now. I can choose to not watch the news every day. Just get the highlights. I can monitor myself and make choices that allow me to be in a better position to cope. We have really learned culturally that stress is a natural state of being, and it isn't. And we see statistically it isn't because the numbers are on the rise. When I did some research, it showed that 25% of the US population right now has been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. 25%. Now that's only those who have been diagnosed. There's always the population that deals with it on their own, doesn't get resources, doesn't get help, doesn't seek help. So we don't know the numbers if they're not diagnosed. Worldwide, that's 792 million people worldwide. And our most prominent ways of coping are medicating, distracting, and indulging. So right now, as collectively there is stress, there's tension, there's fear, there's worry, I want to really bring the attention to the self, because you can bring resources to you that helps you cope with this. And I'm not speaking to people that are in hot zones right now. That's different. I'm speaking to us that are in our homes and we're watching and we're feeling and we're suffering. But we don't have to suffer. We can be effective through this. And the only way we can be effective is if we learn how to bring resources to our minds, because it is in those moments that we are choosing to pick up what things mean. That is so important. If we can just slow down for a minute before we get into the blaming and before we get into all of the opinioning and before we get into all the finger pointing, and just recognize in those moments, what am I picking up? I'm picking up a belief that my nervous system is having a response to. I am going into a stress response with it. And once I am in a stress response, it's personal to me. That's where we need to investigate. What did I just pick up? What belief am I telling myself about this that is making me feel, and fill in the blank, unsafe, worried, scared, angry, frustrated? And we need to bring resources to that belief right there. And we can do that by recognizing the moment we're feeling something, we take responsibility for what we're feeling. That does not mean we give outside conditions a pass, but it allows us to back up. It allows us to look at everything a little more objectively. There is more than right and wrong. And for us to be of use through these high stress times, we have to be able to maintain our balance, which means we have to take responsibility for what we're feeling and bring resources to bring us back to that center point of gravity. And sometimes that's just as simple as 3 deep, slow exhalations, closing our eyes, dropping down, noticing, locating where we're holding on to that in our body, and allowing that to reveal itself to us. This is where stillness and contemplation are so important. What story am I telling myself in this moment that has my nervous system in this response? So is it the outside condition, or is it the moment you accepted and decided it meant something about you? Because that's what we do. That is how our brain is wired. Our subconscious mind takes the stamp, that impression, that memory, because all of our memories are stored in the subconscious mind. So it takes that impression at the time when we experienced heightened emotion, when we were scared, when we got lost coming home from school, when we got scared, when something happened, when somebody bullied us. And we have memories of that. And then when something happens in the world, and there's something scary, and there is war, and there is bullying, and there's all of this playing out in the news and the journalists, bless them, all of them in all these different parts of the world that are putting themselves in the line of this to report objectively. And we've got all of this coming at us at our nervous system. We're feeling it, but I want to slow down time right there. It is in those moments that we ingest. It goes in when we make an acceptance. Why? Because the subconscious mind has all of the memories, but we have a part of our brain that associates data. And as it's observing the information coming at us, it is then looking for what it can compare it to, because our brain's job is to always keep us safe and move us towards pleasure and away from pain. So it's checking, and then it locks on that time we got bullied, or that time we got lost, or that time we were scared. And now we've got a data match. And now it's personal to us. Now we are responding like it's happening to us. Our nervous system doesn't know the difference. And now we are legitimately in stress. And then we tend to talk about it. We think we're going to help bring resolution to it by talking about it with other people, talking about it with our partners, talking about it with our children, talking about it with our friends. And all we're doing is spiraling that nervous system response. And you know it. How do you know it? Because your sleep is disrupted, because your appetite changes, because your breathing changes, because you're feeling the response of your nervous system going into a stress response, into fight or flight. And when that happens, all of the blood flow moves to the bigger muscles, the arms, the heart pumps to the arms and the legs so that we can fight or we can run. And we can't maintain that all day, every day. And so when you're not in the middle of the conflict and you're trying to hold this duality, you have to learn to find your point of center. You have to drop down when that's active and find it. What's the feeling I'm having? What image comes up? Whose face? Does that go back to dad when you were getting yelled at when you were 5? Does that go back to being relocated and moving to a different school? What does that go back to for you? Because that's what's activated. If we can see in that moment, if each of us on this planet could take responsibility for our own emotions, it could literally change the world. We would never be able to blame anyone else for anything ever again. If we could literally slow down time and see that when someone is saying something that we find offends us, it doesn't mean that what they're saying is okay, but it means that we accepted something, internalized it, and matched it with a belief that we held on to for a long time from an emotionalized incident that we experienced. And in that match, we blame them. And yet we can take responsibility for that and choose not to pick it up. We can choose not to accept it. We can choose what things mean for us and to us. And when we can do that, we then become very powerful. We then become able to sit in the presence of deep suffering. And rather than suffer to and compound the suffering, we can become that beacon. We can become that voice of reason. We can become the person that brings resources. We can be so present that it's not about us. We're able to listen. What are the needs this person in front of me needs right now? What can I do to bring comfort there from this place of centeredness? If we could all learn to step back and see that the moment we go into judgment is the moment we have accepted or decided something. It doesn't mean what's happening is right, but we have to learn to understand what leads to it. And when we bring resources to ourselves, we can bring resources to others. But first, it always comes back to us. And always when we are in a stress response, we are telling ourselves something that is not in agreement with who we truly are. There's a conflict. Hear the word. When we are in conflict within ourselves, we are, in essence, at war with ourselves. And when we internally are at war with ourselves, we are at war with the world. If we love our mind and our thoughts, we love the world because we project from those beliefs. And if we don't love our mind and we don't love our thoughts, we don't love the world. So there is a lot of unraveling to do. But if we take responsibility for ourselves, we don't have to fall into the coping mechanisms of distracting and indulging and medicating. They're not solutions. We can step out of the duality of there's only right and wrong and it must be my way or their way. We can instead be the people on the planet who can sit in the presence of suffering and bring deep peace, bring deep wisdom and resources, because it's what you know to be true, because you manage your emotions. You manage your mind. If we all took responsibility for the fact that we project what we believe out in front of us and create the evidence, this is how our mind works. Whatever is high priority to us, so those highly emotionalized beliefs that we picked up when we were little, we didn't have an adult rational mind. We couldn't separate ourselves from the incident. And so we took on a belief. I'm not smart enough. Dad wasn't happy with my report card. That means I'm not good enough. No matter what I do, he's never happy. It must be me. Something's wrong with me. And we try to run from that pain. So it's easier then to blame them. Then we have in this duality, we have a bully and a victim. We have this opposing force, and it never ends. Historically, it never ever ends, but it can end with us. First, to not be at war with ourselves. We have to investigate the limiting beliefs that we carry around, because right now what's happening in the world is triggering all of them in everybody. And then we think the solution is going to come from changing the outside condition, which just continues to escalate. But the solution doesn't come from the outside. The solution comes from within. First, you stop being at war with you. You stop carrying the limiting beliefs around that are lies. What if? What if you put down the belief that I'm not safe and I'm not good enough, and instead you picked up, I am more grand than I can imagine. And my life is this journey of exploring that. What if you put down, the world isn't a safe place, and you picked up the community that I create, one connection at a time, is precious and extraordinary. And there are more people doing good in the world than there are bad. There are more people living their lives, caring about themselves, caring about other people, sending that energy out into the world, loving, learning to love who they are. And when we can love ourselves, we can love others. Everything comes back to the self first. And so if you find yourself constantly in stress, you have power over that. You get to decide. You are the one that puts down what it is that you're telling yourself, and recognizing that that's so old. If we could all really see that sometimes it's something that happened 30 years ago and it's still running our life. We just pick it up when something happens in the world and it's associated with that same feeling. And the moment we identify the feeling, it's personal. We've now accepted this is personal, and then we're in this response. But we can work with that individually, and collectively we change. It's individually. How do we stop judging others? Stop judging ourselves. How do we stop making everything right or wrong? We decide. And everyone has the right to decide for themselves. But if we each, can you imagine a world where we were all just respectful of one another and everyone took responsibility for their emotions? I'm responsible for my emotions. I'm responsible for how I feel. I can shift that and change that. I'm responsible for how I feel. And if I don't feel good, it may be the catalyst in front of me that you said something, but it has nothing to do with you after that. Now it's my responsibility to go see why I picked that up. Where did that come from? Oh, whose face shows up when I close my eyes and I go into my body and I feel that? That's where my work is. And then everyone becomes our teacher. Thank you. Thank you for showing that to me. My soul has a plan for me, and I'm here learning and expanding and growing over my whole lifetime. And I've done so well in all of these areas, but I'm still working on self-love, or I'm still working on feeling safe. I'm still working on that. That's what's showing up. I'm working on that, and I work on that. I own it. I take it. I go into my quiet stillness and I see, that's what I picked up. And I put it down now and I replace it with something else, something that feels good. And when it feels good, it means the subconscious mind is being flooded with these new positive ideas, and it's accepting that belief. And as it accepts that belief, we project from that, and then we see the world as a safer, better place, happier place. We are our own walking little universes. We create our own world. Our mind creates our own world, how we see it. So it can't just come from the outside in. That just triggers something that's already there. This is not an empty space that it just goes in and goes nowhere. Is that starting to make sense? So we start to look at, what can I do in this moment? And it is okay to take breaks. It is okay to step away. Breathe, drop down, investigate, own it. Be responsible for your own emotional well-being. You decide every minute of every day what things mean for you. What if you decided to be able to hold duality in a way that your nervous system was in agreement with? What if you decided that amongst all of the chaos, you could hold your balance? Because you know what it's like to suffer. And so instead, you heal your own suffering. You choose to let go of what happened to you in your past and not let that influence. So you're not creating a future out of your past over and over and over again. Instead, you're present in this moment, feeling that self-love you've been working so hard for. And when you just hold that, you do nothing more than just hold that and live your life one day at a time. That can change the world because of that ripple effect of one person that you help in that moment, and they sleep better that night. And they'll share it with one person, and that person shares it with a person, and before you know it, we're all giving each other resources. Not because someone else is responsible for you, but because you are responsible for you. There are enough people in the world that are at war with each other, and they are always at war with themselves first and foremost. It's not possible any other way. But there are so many more that are not. Don't forget that. Connect to that instead. Choose your peace. Choose to be responsible for your emotions. Choose to locate where they originate from. There is a rise of anxiety and depression that have been increasing since the pandemic. But there's also this rise in personal responsibility that's coming as a result of it. We are becoming stronger. We are learning to manage ourselves more. And isn't that valiant? I don't want to glorify it in any way or have it misconstrued, but there is deep value in the personal journey. And so these things have great purpose. But it's overwhelming if you think you're one person that's supposed to change the collective. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to be true to yourself, to your nervous system, to your path. And as you do that, that becomes a light in the night that others can follow through and say, how are you doing that? And you can say, well, this is what I do. And then they learn. This is a time of incredible self-awareness, self-responsibility, self-growth, and self-actualization if you choose it. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It's a beautiful time to see that you have much more power than you think you do. And to help change this into the trajectory that we really want to go in. It can't be by pointing fingers. It can't be out there needs to change. That's like saying, I'm going to walk down the street, but everybody out there needs to hold a happy thought from me, and then I can do it. That is not going to ever happen. But there is a beautiful cascading effect when you can hold your own. Holding your point of gravity in duality with the utmost self-love, trust, connection, and beauty. You can be that. You are that. You're innately, naturally that. You're not responsible for anyone else, but you are responsible for how you manage your nervous system. And there are beautiful resources available to you. If I can help you in any way through clinical hypnotherapy with that, I've had a lot of people reaching out to me lately. There is actually, I'll tell you right now, there's a free download on my website, megadamsonhypnotherapy.com. It has been there since the pandemic. It is a free 27-minute audio download for stress. Please, with my compliments, take it, start listening to it 2 times a day. Bring resources to your nervous system. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I wish you peace. I wish you beautiful, beautiful safety, self-love, comfort. These are all available to you. You don't have to have everything worked out, and there is no guilt or shame in taking care of yourself right now. Please do. Thank you, and I'll see you next month. Bye for now.
Thank you, Meg. Awesome. I'll tell you, you sometimes the energies just come together. We don't talk about what we're going to present, but it's just absolutely amazing. Well done, my dear. Well done. Thank you. I will say, too, also that Jilliana will not be with us. In fact, she's going to kind of drop out. She's going in a slightly different direction and needs all of her energy for that. So she's been with us for a while, but you can always find her at JillianaRaymond.com. I'll show you a slide at the end with her information on it. She does some incredible sessions and does some awesome work. And she's shared a lot with us over the last several months, too. So it's been a real joy to have you. Thank you, Jilliana. I appreciate it. And now we're going to hear from Allison. We'll hear from Allison, and we'll come back, and we'll do the channel from the group, and we'll send you on your merry way. Aspavo, everyone.
Hi, and welcome to the astrology part of the show. I'm Alison Chester-Lambert. So last month, I talked to you about the potential of earthquakes because we had Mars and the planet which represents such things, a dwarf planet called Haumea. We had them joining together. And when Mars injects another planet with his testosterone or adrenaline or whatever, just pure energy, then often that planet pushes into its meaning. And so I was pretty sure that was what would happen, because Haumea represents everything that is about the crust of the earth. In her native Hawaii, the volcanoes are seen to spew out with all their red lava, which is Haumea, and it forms new crust and new life and new land. So she's very much a part of this land, that land. Anyway, so as it happens, it did happen. So on the 11th of October, as Mars just went within 1 degree of Haumea, there was indeed one of the largest eclipses for the month of October, although it's not so far in October, a 6.3 sadly, in Western Afghanistan. And the timing of this was important. So in Afghanistan, it was 12 minutes past 4 in the morning. This means that we can look at how did that affect the actual local sky around Afghanistan, around Western Afghanistan. And in actual fact, if you were stood there in Western Afghanistan, then the Haumea and Mars would have been what is the equivalent of the second house, which is a house that is just before the ascendant. So the ascendant is where all the planets come up, go above the horizon. And Mars and Haumea were poised to go over the ascendant within a couple of hours. And so that was quite good timing, really. But it then got a little bit more spooky. On the 15th of October, this time the moon joins them. So we've got the moon and Mars conjunct Haumea. And the moon often is involved with the timing of earthquakes, not always, but it can be. And there was another big earthquake, a 6.3 in Herat in Afghanistan. And this one was at 6 minutes past 7 in the morning. And then 20 minutes later, there was another one, a 5.4, again in Herat in Afghanistan. And in actual fact, the timing of that was absolutely unbelievable, really, because those three planets got together exactly on the ascendant. So they were rising over the horizon which is a very important thing in astrology. That's a very powerful position. As planets rise over the ascendant, they change the electromagnetic environment, particularly the moon, because it's so close to us. And the power of the ascendant is phenomenal. Those 3 planets rose up over the ascendant, and we had those 2 earthquakes, which again were very, very powerful, 6.3 and a 5.4. So really, sadly, sad that it happened, but at the same time, looking at the astrology, Haumea is starting to prove more and more about the things that she represents in astrology. She's a new planet, and so we're only really just learning to get to know her. So this is just more information about her meaning in astrology. Okay, so we are looking forward to the 1st of November, which is Samhain, the Celtic New Year. The 1st of November is the Celtic New Year. And of course we get the night before that, the 31st of October, which is Halloween. And so this is the night when the gates open, the veils draw back. I think it's fantastic that this all happens while the sun is in Scorpio. The sun moves into Scorpio very soon now, and the Scorpio itself is such a secretive, mysterious, dark sign. We don't see anything but a mask in Scorpionic people, or those people who have Scorpionic traits. Everything is hidden. The more emotion going on inside of a Scorpio person, the more the mask is heavily set. And it's very difficult to talk when the sun is in Scorpio. I find I can't find my words. It's more of a feeling environment where your emotions and your senses are highly equipped, but your head and your tongue aren't really with it. Anyway, so looking at some of the dates here. So we have a partial lunar eclipse on the 28th of October, so that's just in 8 days. And we have for that the moon in Taurus and the sun in Scorpio. Now this is that famous new moon, which I always say is about chocolate. It is about sex because it's about sensuality and sexuality, so that's always in the air. But it's also about chocolate and eating sweet things and sensual things. So don't forget that one. And the new moon in November is around the 13th of November. And that is when the sun and the moon get together in Scorpio. And again, there is a big sexual theme to that. So you might want to prepare for that one, hey? But also it's a time when really thinking and logic kind of like disappear, and everything needs to be just felt and intuited. And so I think decisions maybe ought to be left. If you're trying to make a logical or reasonable decision, then don't try and make it around that new moon. In fact, if you can get everything done before the sun moves into Scorpio, then I think that might be wise, because it all gets a little bit hidden after that. Okay, so have I covered everything? I think I have. Yes, I have. It's a shorter report this month, but that's good. Who wants to listen to me babbling on forever? And I hope that you have a wonderful month with the sun in Scorpio. Make sure you make the best of it. It is, after all, a relationship thing. And I will see you next month. And don't forget that if you want to have a reading with me, you know how to get hold of me. Just Google Alison Chester Lambert. Okay, I'll see you next month. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Alison. Awesome. Yes, I got to tell you, we got another partial eclipse coming up. Last month she talked about the eclipses that were happening in the United States. She was talking about just now, but I went out in the yard here in Vegas, and we had an 85% eclipse. I tried to take a picture of it, you got to have one of those reflectors. But anyway, absolutely amazing. Thanks, Allison, so much. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to keep moving here. We'll be right back with the group right after a short word from our sponsor. Hi, everybody. I'm thrilled to tell you that I will be teaching Cognitive Life Path Programming in Breda, the Netherlands, coming up on November 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 2023. I'm thrilled to be returning to the Netherlands after many, many years of not being there, and to present this seminar especially. The seminar itself is a modality that I'll be teaching. It is all about creating your highest life path going forward from the Spirit's perspective. It's done through visualizations and several techniques that we teach, but we're not only going to teach that, we teach a whole lot of subsidiary techniques of things that you'll work with as well. For instance, brain balancing is a big part of it, where you do that in many different ways, as well as life induction techniques themselves to show you how to do it. And then we go through and explain exactly what we're doing at each stage. There is a workbook included too, and it is a certified course. It's one of our healing courses in our electives. So with that, we're going to be teaching it in Breda, Netherlands, November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I hope you come and join us. It's a really wonderful time to bring family together in this way and to make connections that you make at these types of events. Aspav, everybody. We'll see you there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Rother. I'm the channel for the group here at Espavo. Wanted to tell you what we're going to be doing here with spiritual psychology. Spiritual psychology is one of my best-selling books. It's actually one of the best of my books. It's probably the second bestseller. Remember being the first. But it was published in 14 different languages. I think I've got 8 of them here, just to kind of show you. It's been picked up in different places throughout the world. This one looks just like it, but it's in Turkish, and so forth. To be able to do that, what is this and what are we teaching? That's really what I want to address in this short video. Tell you a little bit about what this is when I started doing private sessions with a group on my shoulder. The group would tell me these stories, and I would tell these stories to people, and it would make sense of their lives. And sooner or later, we, with the help of Sandy Sedgbeer and several other people, we came together and started collecting these. And we ended up with a lot of information in this book on not only about the 12 primary life lessons, but about how life works in general. It's kind of interesting because you can not only see yourself in here, but you'll see other people that you know real well or other people you've had challenges with or so forth in here as well. And it kind of makes sense as to what's going on from a different perspective, which is what the group is really good at. They want to give us a different perspective so that we can make our own choices more clearly. And that's the purpose of what this is about. So they talk about the 12 primary life lessons. We talk about the 7 stages of life. We should have called it Light Work by the Numbers, but it's called Spiritual Psychology. And we're going to be teaching it beginning in October. It's going to be a 9-day course, actually 10 days with the question and answers, but it'll be a 9-day full course, 3 days in October, 3 days in November, and 3 days in December. You can check the calendar to find out when they are coming. But we're going to put this down because this is going to be one of the required courses for our doctoral program. And one of the more important pieces. What this really does is this kind of describes the group's view of us having this human experience. And it's very empowering, the way they look at things, the way they see us, the challenges we have and why we have them. It's incredibly empowering to see this. And that is one of the things that we'd love to do, is to be able to pass on those stories and to be able to tell them. And that's what's in this book. So we'll come together, we'll go through all of it. I've got it all laid out as to what days we're going to be covering what. We've tried to make some packages that are very available and affordable for you to charge over the 3 months and so forth to be able to work with that. But that's what this is. Spiritual psychology is one of the base connections of the work here at Espavo with the group. The other one is crossing the veil. This particular one happens to talk a lot about what happens here on Earth. How does the spirit experience planet Earth? What is the spiritual experience of that? The other one talks about crossing the veil. What is a spirit like to come into the Earth? And what do you do before that? And how does that work? And what do you do after that? And talks in the other direction. So those two books are kind of required subjects for the doctoral program that we have here at Espavo. And that's why it covers both of them very well. I'll be very pleased to be presenting this for the first time in a very long time. I will bring you up to date on new updates that are added to this, that we've added to, and bring you up to all the current events having to do with spiritual psychology and the 12 primary life lessons. It is a certified course. You will receive a certificate at the end. And as we said, this is one of the required courses for the doctoral program here at Espavo. Have a wonderful time. We hope to see you there. Espavo, everyone.
Greetings from home, everybody. I'm Ilra of Rhythmic Service, here at your service to work with you this day. Bring you a little healthy rhythm to empower your energies. For you're here at a critical time on planet Earth, dear ones. It's a very unusual set of circumstances that are all coming together in different ways. And we tell you, you've got war on your planet. You've had it for some time now, again. And that means that somewhere, someone thinks that that's a good idea. Well, things have changed a bit since that was the beginning of that whole process. I'm going to tell you, just from an overview of war in general, a lot has been gained by different rulers through war. Of course. It's how people used to go and take over new lands. They'd go to war. They'd take their whole armies out there and just rape and pillage and clear everything out and build their own energies in there. It's happened over and over. And you think that was a long time ago. It wasn't. It was fairly soon. So it continually happened on a regular basis. Now, you're not in that. Maybe most of you that are watching this are not involved in that in one way or the other, the different wars that are taking place on planet Earth right now. But I tell you, you're involved in a different way. And that's one of the things I want to bring you here today. You see, the collective will ultimately determine how far this goes. Now, that's not easy to say, because there's many rulers who will go against the collective. They'll even go against their own people if they think they can accomplish something or do things in that. And we're saying it that way for a reason, dear ones. If you look at the wars that are on planet Earth right now, they're not about people. These are not people. These are governments that are fighting each other, basically. Well, sometimes the people revolt against the government and end up bashing their heads against the wall. So there's lots of things that you can see about this. And be careful taking sides, too, because obviously this has been going on for a long time in different areas. And you can start to see where that is. Now, the question is rather, what do you play in this? How do you work with this? Maybe you don't live anywhere near this. Maybe it's just taking time on your television set if you're watching it, or in your newspaper that you're reading, whatever the case. Well, the reality is you have an effect on it. Because for the first time now, dear ones, you're into the fifth dimension. And being well into the fifth dimension, you are connected. This goes back quite a ways, and you've discovered parts of this that you can validate in your quantum mechanics. It's called quantum entanglement, where two particles, no matter how far they are separated, are intricately entwined and basically move at the same exact moment, faster than the speed of light. It would be faster than the speed of light, but it's not actually traveling because they're actually connected. So are you. Now, as you go through the veil, dear ones, as you come down to play this game of pretending to be a human, you make all your contracts, you do all the fun things that you're going to do. And then you step into it, and you start these things into motion. You try to remember, and you go, what am I doing here? Who who am I? Where is this energy? And you play the game of learning how to be a human, because you have to do that because you're actually a spirit. So all of a sudden stuck inside this human body. So as you're working with these things, you tend to balance everything. And the connection that you have starts to disappear. It's part of the veil. It's part of the properties of the game that you wrote yourself. You wrote the rules to this game. Oh, yes, we know. You don't think you're creator beings, but you are. Nonetheless, the interesting part is you set this up in different ways. So in this balance, when you disconnect yourself or pretend that you can't see that connection, you start seeing things from a different perspective, and you see things as encroaching. You see things as taking away from you. You see things as threatening you in some way. And this builds and builds and builds. What you are seeing here in the areas of Israel and Palestine right now, of course, has gone on for a very, very long time. And as difficult as this is to watch, the best you might be able to hope for at this very moment is that some resolution comes out of this. That might make it worthwhile to some degree. But humans, there's ways of communicating without bombs. There's ways of doing all these things. Now, you can't just be aggressive like some of you are on planet Earth, trying to take over new lands, trying to steal land from your neighbors, all the things that are taking place. Yes, we've seen all that. And that's fairly normal. Most of you have an ego, and that gets in the way sometimes, especially when you become a world global leader, so to speak. So in there, what you're working with is this balance, because you don't see the connection that you have with everyone else. It says, oh, that's happening over there. I don't need to worry about it. It's a different part of the world. I don't believe like those people do, so it's different. It's going to be different for me. And you don't see the connection. Well, that's part of the veil. The veil is very successful at hiding the connection, but you're all intricately tied together. That when you have a thought, dear ones, that thought becomes imprinted in what we're just going to call the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind floats around and is shared by everyone on the planet. So what that actually means is that at any moment that any one of you have a thought, that it's only a matter of time before the rest of you have the opportunity to take that same thought, to have it float by your subconscious mind at the well. And if you're awake and you go, oh, there's a nice thought, I think I'm going to make that my own. I think I'm going to go with that. And you release the ones that are negative. Oh, there's a negative thought. I think I'm just going to let that one go. No, thanks. I'm not going to do. Oh, but there's a really pretty one. I'm going to add that one too. So you're constantly bringing these thoughts out of the subconscious mind, bringing them into your consciousness and grounding them on the planet. What if you were able to plant the seeds of peace up there? Well, some of you actually came in with that in mind in this lifetime. Now, dear ones, we tell you that there are many more of what we call last timers on this planet than you can imagine. And what does that mean? Well, it's not about the Earth. It's not about the planet Earth or her path forward or anything of that nature. This has to do with the evolution of humans. For what happens is, dear ones, you come in as a spirit, you pretend to be a human, you learn things, you bring that back with you, you anchor it into your core personality when you come home. Then you come back and you dig in some more, you bring some more things, and you put the veil on each time, not even remembering the last time. So it's kind of a laborious process to make any advancement as a spirit in a human form. And yet, you're doing it. Now, how does that work exactly, and what can you do to increase that? Well, that changes the world around you. And one of the things that's starting to happen is you see the connecting lines between people. And this is actually why we made the keeper choose this background that we're using this day. Because it's a bunch of lines that are all connected and moving together and creating this beautiful matrix of love. And that's what we'd like you to work that is the resolution of filling the fear. Because the fear is a vacancy. It's missing information that is blown out of proportion. And sometimes fears are good, so they're not all bad, but it's missing information. You fill in the information, you won't be afraid anymore. You may not like the outcome, but you won't be afraid of it. So it's kind of interesting. You can kind of replace that in some ways. But now with all these wars going on planet Earth, is it your responsibility to go out and hold a sign and say, I stand on this side, I'm going to be here? Well, you certainly can do that, and it might make you feel better. And those actions, whether you take the actions or whether you just hold that energy, plant seeds of peace in the subconscious mind. Now, does that mean it's going to have an immediate reaction? Well, we wish so. We certainly hope so. We're going to do our best from this side of the veil to help you clear the energy to be able to do that and the confidence to do it. In fact, we're getting together tomorrow to do exactly that. Plant some of these seeds in the superconsciousness and the subconscious minds of humanity. What a beautiful thing to do. Well, those are things that change a lot of it. Now, the other part that's happening is that as all of humanity is evolving, you're starting to see some of these lines. You'll see more connections between you and other people. You'll see the deep connections of the heart. You'll recognize people. Sometimes you'll make new friendships. Sometimes new things will pop up. Sometimes new people come into your life in magical ways. All these things are starting to happen. Because of the evolution of humanity, you're starting to see the lines of connection. And of course, if you look in the night sky, it's a timeline. It's 13.8 billion years ago that light was actually created that you're seeing in your eyes. So it's kind of a time machine, isn't it? To be able to look into the past quite that far. And beautiful to see how you work with these things and what that means. But then when you do that, you start to understand something. And that's that all particles that were originally connected in any way still have that connection. They still have this line connecting the dots and connecting all of the parts of yourself. Now, what happens is those are very faded because the veil is very good. It works very well. So you don't actually see the connections. You don't actually see that you're connected, which is part of your lesson of coming here to planet Earth. And then time after time after time, you come back, you try to improve yourself to a point, and you say, you know what? I don't need that anymore. I'm done with planet Earth. You know, but there's a few things I'd love to clean up before I move on. And you come back in one last time, which is why we call you a last timer. And there's a lot of you here on planet Earth right now. And many of you came in just to hold this energy. Some of you came in just to be here, to rock the scales, so to speak. But also, let's go back to the night sky for a minute. If you go back far enough, you could actually call that the Big Bang. It's not really, but we're not going to get into that at this moment. So we call that the Big Bang. What was the Big Bang? Well, nobody's talked about what happened before the Big Bang. It's actually just a dimensional shift from one dimension to another, opened up expansion, incredible things of that nature very quickly. It happens regularly, but only once in your area of life, so to speak. So in any event, what happens is if you go back far enough before the Big Bang, you were all connected. You were there. And you were part of that. Not only part of it, but you were part of everything else. A physical connection to every being everywhere. Very similar to what you have when you go home. A strong connection, energetic connection with every being everywhere. Not just Earth, everywhere. You have this little beautiful light, pinprick of light right in the cosmos that is just starting to take over the night sky. Absolutely beautiful. So that's what we ask you to do, dear ones, is to connect these dots. to try and see that you are connected to every single one of them. And when you look at somebody who's taking, who's fighting a war on your, in your news feed or wherever it is you see it, they're the same as you. Furthermore, they're connected to you. How can you send them the best energy that you can? Well, you can do that. There's lots of ways of creating energy bubbles around people to do that. But the most important part is to see a larger vision. You're playing a new game. You haven't written all the rules of the new game yet. You're just figuring them out now. As the new game starts to advance, those that are deeply invested in the old game are acting out in very big ways to keep things from changing. They will change eventually anyway. You are here to make sure that happens. You're doing better than you think. Okay, that's enough for me for now. I'm going to leave you for a little bit because the keeper of time wants to come in and share a few things with you before we go. But know that you are loved beyond your understanding, dear ones. All the eyes of the universe are on planet Earth, the beautiful beings that you call humans. Not just humans. You've got lots of beings on planet Earth. We'll talk about that another time. Enjoy the journey, dear ones. Hold the highest in your heart and place it up in that subconscious mind. See a vision of humanity coming together and start to connect those dots. Aspavo, dear ones. Treat each other with respect. Nurture one another and play well together. I'm Ilra of Rhythmic Service. At your service. Aspavo, dear ones. Greetings, dear ones. I am the keeper of time. I am so overjoyed to be with you this day, for humanity has just received a shockwave. Yes, it's almost as if someone took the rug and shook it, and everything everywhere had to kind of find a new position of normal. Well, we hope that normal does not stay long. It is entirely up to you. But we tell you, dear ones, you are here with many of the pieces of the puzzle that you need. Do you hold the answers for some of these complicated questions? No, you may not mentally hold those answers, but you hold the energy of them in your heart. If you can connect your hearts to theirs, whoever they are, you can make a huge difference. Now, as Ilra said, you also have challenges with governments, do you not? These are governments that don't always let their people know what they are doing. And very common, actually, and much larger than you think. You probably think you live in a government that doesn't do that, and yet they all do to some degree. So literally, you've got all this energy to show this in different ways. But now, because of the new connections, because of you reconnecting many of those dots of the integrated parts of yourselves to each other, that is starting to change everything. That gives you opportunities to not only just plant seeds, but also to reap the harvest of those seeds yourself. To start planting seeds for a new life even within your own energy, because many of you are complete with what you have come to do. Being a last timer, as Ilra described, many of you have put a lot on your plate. Many of you have brought a lot here to try and accomplish all these loose ends that you wanted to tie up that you've been working on for eons of lifetimes already. So some of you are a little overwhelmed as last timers. Just breathe, dear ones. We have you. We will fill you full of light and love at every opportunity that we have. Just connecting with you. And what you may not know is you also do that for us. You are part of us. For in the ways that you are connected with each other, you are also connected with us. And we adore that connection. We make space for it at every opportunity we can. We try to nurture you, to open those doors. And yet, as we said, as you evolve, there will be those that try to take advantage of those changes. That is happening on several very big scales. At the same time, as we mentioned, there are opportunities for you to start to resolve issues that you've been dealing with for a very long time. Now, unfortunately, you have all this balance system. If somebody pushes you over here, you have to push them back. We wish it wasn't so, and it is the collective that actually decides that. So place your energy into the collective consciousness, put it into the subconscious mind of what you'd like to see. Now, do not be dissuaded if you don't see all the creations that you're putting up there. But those can start to make a huge difference on your planet. They hold a ray of light that everyone can grow into and hang on to. It's a magical time to be here, dear ones. You have reserved your space on planet Earth for quite some time. And here you are. We are overjoyed at that, dear ones, because you are the magicians that can help to change the outcome of everything that is underway. You can shift this to where all these negatives start building into positives for you. It's a very magical way that this happens. And it all starts with a thought, with a dream. In the face of adversity, in the face of war, dare to dream. And you'll start connecting those dots. That changes everything. You are on the right path, dear ones. It is working. The path is clear in front of you. Take your light, hold it high, share it with others as you step forward, and know that you are on the perfect opportunity to create something very magical. I am the keeper of time, dear ones. I have watched you over eons of time evolve, not just here on Earth, but in many places, and nurture the illusion of time. But you're starting to look behind the veil now. You're starting to see things that you've never seen before. Take these opportunities, as we said, even in the face of adversity, even in the challenges that you see now and you will continue to see for a while. Take those dense energies and turn them into something magical, because that's why you came. Take care of those who are in need, especially those who are feeling all that tension and translating it into what you call mental illnesses. Very big way, very big path for humans on the planet right now. You can close that down with love. Dare to fall in love every chance you get. And you will be connecting the dots of love. Well done, dear ones. It is with the greatest of honor I ask you to treat each other with respect. Show that respect every chance you get. Nurture one another, and be sure to play well together. You're playing a beautiful game. Aspavo, dear ones. I am the keeper of time, and I love you dearly.